Purpose. What is it, and how does it relate to leadership? One of the good ways of understanding the importance of purpose is to think back to when you were at school. You probably did an exercise or an experiment in physics that had a sheet of paper with a load of iron filings on it. Complete mess, and they would move around. Then you took a magnet and you brought that magnet up under that piece of paper. And all those iron filings instantly formed a pattern. There was relationship and form and purpose to that. Now, your purpose is like that magnet. When you connect with your purpose, it brings form and shape to the confusion around you and enables you to understand and see the path that you must take through that. So purpose is like your magnet. Look at it another way. For those of you who sail, you know that the classic sailing boat has a hull and a mast. And then there's something that goes from that hull under the water. It's called the keel. Now, without a keel, when the wind hits the boat and the sails, what happens to the boat? It goes over instantly, it capsizes. Or if it's a nice flat-bottom boat, it just gets pushed sideways by the wind. The keel is what keeps it going. The keel of the boat not only stops it capsizing and enables that side wind to turn into forward movement, it keeps that boat going in the direction that it wants to go. No matter how strong or heavy the storm above the water, it's the keel that will keep that boat upright and keep that boat on course. So your purpose is also your keel. The keel of your boat is your purpose. The deeper it is, the stronger it is, the more it can take, the stronger the storm around you can be, but you will keep your purpose and your direction. So those are two ways of looking and understanding the importance of purpose. Where does it come from? Well, to explore this, I'm going to use a model that was developed by a chap called Robert Dilts, and he called it his logical levels. And we're going to look at that in a certain way, but those of you who know Dilts' work, if you do, will recognize this. So first of all, when we're born, we are born into an environment. We're born into an environment, and through that environment, that tells us how to behave. Do this, don't do that. Do that, that's good. Don't do that, that's bad. So that gives us our behaviours. It also tells us what we need to develop and what we can leave out of our education and our development. So it provides us with the capabilities that we develop. Not only that, as we grow up in our environment, it tells us what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad, what we believe to be valid, important and true, and what we don't believe is valid, important and true. So from the environment we absorb our beliefs and our values. And then it goes a little deeper. Our environment also teaches us who we are. It gives us an identity. I'm a Scotsman, I'm an Englishman, I'm an Irishman, I'm this or that, due to the community and the environment that we grow up in, or that we choose to inhabit. So it gives us our identity. And also, if we ever bother to think about it, it tells us what our purpose is. To be a good citizen, to do this well, to do that well, to work hard, to buy things, if you like. In our commercial society, it's all about buying things. And the government, when we have a slump, says, we've got to get everybody to buy stuff to keep the economy going. Or we've got to work at this and we've got to work at that. So, if we will go that far, we know that our environment can give us our purpose. So there we have it, from the environment right down to those deeper levels of purpose. And that process, from the outside in, we know as social conditioning. From the outside in. So when we have a sense of purpose from this social conditioning, it is defined by the external world in which we find ourselves. And that's fine. Many people will go through their whole lives with that social conditioning, determining what they do, who they are, who they think they are, and what they think is right and wrong. And it's absolutely necessary. It's necessary for our survival. It's necessary for us to form a valuable and important part of the community in which we live. And it's important to enable us to contribute to that community in a best and in a harmonious and a positive way. However, of course, there are times when we begin to question all of these truths and values and beliefs that we're given. In our society, this often happens from the ages of 12, 13, 14 onward. We call it adolescence. In a way, I always think we betray our young people in our society because we don't give them a nice ritual or a period of time where we say, you are now moving from the state of dependent childhood to a state of independent, contributing adulthood. We have this space that we call adolescence or teenage. And we tend to often say, oh, when they're teenagers, and we cast a negative cast over that. However, it is an incredibly valuable time for all individuals because it's usually the time at which we begin to question this social conditioning. Hang on a minute, why should I believe what you told me? Why should I behave in that way? What is my purpose? You tell me I'm here for that. Actually, I'm going to find that out. And the beauty of this time is it begins to turn this outside-in process, if it's helped and it's nurtured properly, into an inside-out process. Also, things that make us question our identity and purpose are big life events. Somebody close to us dies. For many of us, the first person that's really close to us that dies is a parent. And that can have a dramatic effect on making us question what it's all about. Other life events, accidents, illnesses, being made redundant can really impact our sense of purpose and our sense of identity and shake that to its core. Usually, we're told that these are negative events, worrying and anxiety. For us, when we're talking about purpose, they are very positive because they actually turn us in on ourselves and ask the deep questions. What am I doing this for? What am I here for? What is my purpose? And when we begin to explore our purpose and get a sense of it for ourselves, we then begin to build our own identity. Actually, you know, I don't want to be a this. I want to be a one of those. I want to be something different. I see myself as something different. I begin to question beliefs and values. And we've all had this. We can all remember from our childhood when those simple truths that we were given somehow didn't work. Great example, Santa Claus. When did you stop believing in Santa Claus? And then we can go on to a whole raft of other beliefs that we may or may not know that we hold. And then our capabilities, the classic one. Mommy and Daddy want little Johnny or little Jane to grow up and be a nice profession. They want to do medicine, or they want to be an accountant or a lawyer. And at some point, little Johnny and little Jane turns around and says, you know what? I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to be a rock star. Yeah. And so there's a little bit of internal conflict about what capabilities are developed because the identity is changing, so the capabilities that people want to develop changes. The way we behave then also changes. We don't behave in order to please the environment. We behave in order to fulfill what we feel to be our purpose and to live our identity, fulfill our beliefs and values, develop the capabilities that we want to develop, and then behave in ways that we feel are right, true, proper, and positive. This, of course, creates a different environment. Just recently, 2008, there was a big financial crash. This came because of behaviours in the banks. And the banks are many things. Some people would say that the whole of that economic or that world is based upon the values of fear and greed. That created a certain environment, and we saw the results. Now, many people are questioning that, questioning the validity of a socio-economic structure based upon such values. And so things are turning around. The important thing here, though, is that when we begin to question, we find our purpose. And when we build our identity on our purpose, our beliefs and our values on our identity and purpose and so on, instead of it being social conditioning, it's what many people call self-actualization. And then the movement is from the inside out, and it will create a different environment. So what has this got to do with leadership? If you don't know your purpose as a leader, how can you lead anybody anywhere? Where does your motivation come from? Where does your sense of direction, prioritization and discrimination come from? If you don't know your purpose, how will you keep your direction when the storm around you becomes really strong and distracting? If you don't know your purpose, when everything around you is confusing and bitty and fragmented, how will you be able to create the pattern that enables you to see your way forward? As you know, in Extraordinary Leadership, we say that one of the best definitions of leadership is from the poet Kipling. If you can keep your head when all around are losing theirs and blaming it on you, that's leadership. And it is your purpose, the depth of connection with your purpose, that enables you to keep your head, knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it. So how do we explore this? Well, we could start looking directly at purpose. Why do you do what you do? What's your purpose? What do you want to get from it? But often, in many cases, that's a little intangible and difficult to get a hold on in any meaningful way. So the first thing we're going to do is work at the level of beliefs and values, and particularly at the level of values, because it is values that often drive our behaviours. So the first thing we're going to do is see what values are important to us.